If I could fix one thing in the world, it would probably the feeling of not being wanted, the feeling of rejection.
Breakaway Talk Podcast, episode one, uno. And I can't think of a better person to have a conversation with on our first episode of the Breakaway Podcast than Kobie Smith. Kobie, welcome. And I want to give a proper introduction to you. Okay. So you are now 21 years old. You've been coming to Breakaway Camp since you were 9 years old. Over 12 years now, you've been a part of our community, a part of our family. But I want to introduce you as first a next generation ambassador for Breakaway, because that's what you are to us. And also, you are a 5-star camp staffer. You're an amazing leader for us at camp. Kids look up to you in so many different ways. They see the strength, not perfection, right? But the strength that you carry as a leader. But also, maybe there's no better way to introduce you than as a four-peat champion of the Twinkie relay at camp. You own that thing, and everybody at camp wants to be on your team because you own that thing. So you are at least a four-peat, I believe. So
So
for
close there.
for our listeners that may have no idea what we're talking about with the Twinkie relay, it is like the Super Bowl of camp, right? I mean, it is
Yeah,
our
essentially.
staple relay race. Explain that a little bit. Give a little explanation to the Twinkie relay so our listeners can kind of understand how that goes down and what it is.
Right, for sure. You hit pretty much right on the nail when you said the Super Bowl of our camp. It's the biggest competition that we have, pretty much, besides our talent show. And essentially, is what you said. It's a series of mini games that we do that a lot of the games which recreated. Um, that we go through, and it's a relay style. So it's one after the other. We do these different tasks back to back to back to back nonstop. So it's a little, it takes some endurance to do. It's not a completely easy task, but all the kids have to do these tasks, and they have to do it as quickly as possible. And it might consist of things like having a ball sit on a cup, and you have to run around the cones and be the first one back, or maybe the egg or ball on a spoon, or maybe you have to hold a ball between two people's backs and run across. That's a plethora of different things, but it's a really, really great time, and it really gives you a chance to bond with the kids and show not only leadership qualities for me, but teamwork qualities for the kids as well.
Being a four-peat, and maybe you've won it even more than that, but is it too soon to start calling you the GOAT of the Twinkie relay? I mean, can we go ahead and like anoint you as the Patrick Mahomes of the Twinkie relay? Is it okay to start talking about that conversation, the GOAT?
I mean, I wouldn't say Patrick Mahomes to be as the GOAT. I say more of the Tom Brady of
Tom
the
Brady.
Twinkie relay, because I've won it before this win streak here. I've won it a few times before that as well. But that wasn't due to me. It was due to my team, because I was just a camper at that point in those times. So I mean, there's some conversation there.
So let's talk about camp a little bit. But before you came to camp as a 9 year old, you had already faced really some tremendous hardship in your life. I would say trauma with knowing your story, some things that just impacted you as a kid. Can you share a little bit about some of those hardships and what you faced growing up, some of the difficulties and some of the things that affected you early on in life?
Right, so I didn't come from much from Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I came from a low income area of that part of that city. It's not a huge city, but it's a pretty big city. So came from the low income part of that. My parents, they tried to do their best for me. At least I perceived it that way when as a child. But there's still always a underlying feeling that something's not right. And then growing up, I realized that now see, I'm now more aware of what happened back then. I know things now that I didn't know then. So now I can look back and see that it really was a traumatic time for me, even if I didn't realize it at that time. I just saw it as I wasn't happy all the time. But so I was around drugs all the time. I was moving houses. It was never really a stable environment for me. It was more of how, I mean, we're at this new house now and we're staying here, but it's how long are we really going to be here, or how long are even my parents really going to be here? Because most of the time I would stay with other family, I would stay with cousins, I would stay with whoever it may be while my parents were out doing I really who knows what.
You've spoken of an incident where that really kind of shocked you, right? You were really
Mhm.
young, and the police showed up at your house, and yeah, walk us through that.
Yeah, so I can remember how old I was. I was in early elementary school, and I remember one day we were all of our siblings, we were in this apartment, and it's maybe like eight, nine, 10 of us there. It's quite a few of us there, my siblings there, and like I said, we're just getting ready for school one morning, and all of a sudden there's just beating at the door, and I'm a kid, I don't know what's going on. I don't know anything. So I'm still, I make a joke saying, "Hey, the cops are here." The cops are here, not even knowing the reality or the extent of the situation that was actually unfolding just then, and it happened to actually be the cops, and that was the point where they came in. They rushed my parents, put them on the ground, and that was pretty much the last time I saw my parents at that point for quite a very long time,
So they got
and
locked.
my siblings too, at that
That
for
they
that
got locked
matter.
up for a while. Your nana played a real significant role in your life as a person
Hmm.
who had a grandma who loved me so much and prayed for me all the time, and especially in my just wild hoodlum teenage years. Grandma was always on her knees praying for me, and the faith of a grandma is something that I've always cherished. Right? You've had
Hmm.
a nana that was so special in your upbringing as well. Share about Nana.
My nana was pretty much like my rock. She was honestly the one who raised me for a good while, a good bit, while my parents weren't there. Her and my aunt. So before after my parents had left, I again was bouncing to different houses. I would stay with one Shannon. I would stay with um, cousins, like I said, whoever it may be, but until I finally like kind of settled down for once at my nana's house, and that was like my real first safe haven, if that makes sense. And she pretty much like I said, she was older. This is my nana, so she couldn't do everything. She couldn't do much for me, but she pretty much made what we had feel like the absolute world, because like I said, she couldn't do much, but she made my childhood a childhood,
And I
and
believe
I
Nana
can,
was
yeah.
I believe she was responsible for connecting you with Breakaway, because the first time we met you was at one of our Christmas outreach parties for kids affected by parental incarceration. And I believe it was Nana that brought you to the party. And that's where we first met you before you came to summer camp.
Yeah, I believe it could have been my aunt Shannon and my parents kind of getting connected with y'all, but
Hmm.
ultimately, yeah, she was the one that brought me to that first meeting with you guys.
you ended up at camp, and we have seen over the years the relationships, the experiences of community and mentoring, and the evolution and rise, if you will, of Kobie through the camp ranks. Go back to that 9-year-old Kobie when you first came to summer camp. What were you feeling? What were you thinking? What was it like for you? From what I understand, you really weren't sure you wanted to be there, right?
Yeah, that was honestly no part of me that wanted to be at that camp at that point. I viewed myself as a loner, isolationist. It just wasn't something that I would typically do. And even my family knows that at that point in time in my life, I was just not a very outgoing and, adventurous person. I wanted to stay indoors. I wanted to stay alone. I was okay with entertaining myself. So, yeah, that first year was honestly tough for me because it was a new experience and I wasn't used to any of this. Yes, I got experiences with a bunch of other kids in school, but
Mm-hmm.
that's something I've already been accustomed to at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So going to something and most of all, it being a Christian camp, it didn't really resonate with me in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
I would say.
But you kept coming and you got involved with other programs like our Kid Ventures program. You've been on some
Mhm.
NASCAR trips, right, with the boys, and some other Kid Ventures programs. But over the years, um, something started to shift for you, would you say, as it pertains to coming to camp and how you saw it? And yeah, tell us about those experiences of maybe evolution with camp. Did you
So,
get to a point at somewhere where you actually looked forward to coming to camp?
oh, definitely, definitely. I would say even that first year, there were points, bits and pieces in that week where I would say I was like, I really I like this. It's fun, but then again, some kids have fun experiences, but when those fun experiences go away, then they're like, oh, I want to go home again. So there's so many things about that camp that to enjoy. Not only the people, the atmosphere, the culture, the everything that goes into making that camp is something that would make you want to return. And I feel like I um, really was aware of that. I would say maybe the second, third, or fourth year, around there. Once I'm getting older and I'm really starting to build a connection with not only you, but the other people around and honestly with God.
Do you have any like memories that really stand out? You don't have like a
Um,
near death experience or anything with whitewater rafting, right?
I mean, honestly, when I was younger and we were doing the rafting, I honestly thought every branch in the water was gonna kill me. It was just it would like speed up the water, and I thought it was gonna. And my tube did pop a few times while rafting, so I've had a few wild experiences, but I loved every second of them. If I'm being completely honest.
And I'm pretty sure there were no sharks in that water, right? So I mean,
Oh no, no,
we're
no, no sharks in the river.
even though there were some stories that were told that might lead people,
Never.
especially some naive young people, to believe otherwise. But over the years, how would you say like the positive attributes, the things that have really maybe shaped you, right? Experiences that have meant something to you and developed you over the years.
The coming up in different roles at Breakaway. Starting off as just a camper who comes and follows the rules and obeys, to eventually, getting a little leadership with being a cabin leader. So in that role, you have a little more responsibility. So in that sense, you have to build a little, deeper connections with the kids, with yourself. You have to kind of step up when you guys needed us to at that point, and that really helps outside of school. I mean, outside of breakaway as well, just when going throughout life, and then not only having that, and then transferring to the junior leader role as well. This gave me that real leadership feel, I would say, and then just having those different roles really, I guess, paved me in a way that, helped me realize what kind of leader that I wanted to be, or what kind of person, what kind of man that I wanted to be, not only when it came to kids or groups or leadership, but when it came to my relationship with God as well.
We had a junior leader training the other night, and one of the things that we discussed was young people often rise to the level of expectations put on them. So when we talk about junior leadership and roles and such, or a cabin leader, mess hall leader, we want young people to know at camp that there are expectations on you to rise. What about faith? Now you talked about that a couple minutes ago about your relationship with God and how that has grown. Walk us through that a little bit. How has your faith developed, and your personal relationship with God over these years?
It was hard. It was very hard trying to figure out if this even was the right thing for me, because I've always heard about God throughout my entire life. My family has always preached it, always preached church, always preached everything, but at the same time, it never really felt like, I would say, I needed it, because I was in such a place where nothing good really ever came. So it was to the point where the thoughts were, if he's supposed to be good to me, then why is all this bad happening? Well, why is no good really happening to Kobie? So I really had mixed emotions about it for a very long time. And if I'm being completely honest, you were the one who, you break away, this experience that I've got to have for the past 12 years. This is what really opened my eyes to see that he does work, but he does work in silence. I'm not gonna notice every single little thing he does for me. I'm not gonna see the bigger picture always, but I know that he has a bigger picture for me, and I know. And I believe there's a Bible verse that says, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, to trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understandings, and always acknowledge him, and that he shall direct your path straight, or direct your path. And
Hmm.
I pretty much, um, I live by that now. That following, that he's gonna guide me to the place that I need to be.
That means so much to me because that particular passage, when I gave my life to Christ in a juvie center at 16 years old, the preacher who led me to the Lord gave me my first Bible. And in the front of the Bible, he wrote that verse, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, those two verses, that passage of scripture. And it's always hung with me so personally that that's where my journey began. That word trust, right? I mean, we can't have it all figured out, but it's kind of like I tell young people, I don't have to be a mechanic to get from point A to B if I trust the keys, put them in the ignition, turn the start the engine, get the car moving. I don't have to be a mechanic to understand how everything works, the brakes, the pistons, and all of this. If the machine itself is reliable, the trust factor is turn on the ignition, right? And that's to me
Hmm.
a picture of faith. Like we don't have to have it all figured out. God doesn't expect us to, but trust me, he says, right? Just turn the ignition, take me at my word, trust that I have what's best in mind for you. And that's Romans 8:28 talks about how God works all things out for the good of those who are called and love God. And I've been seeing that in your life, that God is working things out for good, even the hardship. I tell kids all the time, God doesn't waste your pain. He never does. And you go back and you look at the things that you have experienced in your childhood, God has used all of that, right? To bring you closer to him so that you can lean into this trust concept, and by faith, know that you don't have to have it all figured out to take the next step, but there are next steps to keep taking. On that note, you took a big step of faith this past summer, I believe it was, when you got
Hmm.
baptized at camp, and that was really a cool moment for me. I enjoyed sharing that connection with you. We were talking the other day about baptism, how baptism, is a symbol of uh, this new life in Christ. This You go in the water, and it's like all the sins, all the failures, all the past broken stuff stays in the water, kind of like when Jesus went into the grave. He took our sin, took death, put it in the grave, but then he came out victoriously, right? And
Hmm.
walked out of the tomb alive. And that's kind of like what baptism symbolizes is no matter what has impacted us in our lives, right? Jesus has taken it and we can bury it, or in the case of baptism, it goes underwater. The old person stays there, but we come up in this new victorious way of living. It's not always easy, is it?
It's not
And it's not like we
because
once we walk with Jesus have it all figured out, right?
mhm,
We still have to trust. We're still going to go through some stuff. But baptism is uh, it's a moment, a defining moment. When you get married, or when you get engaged, or when you graduate, these are all defining moments in our lives.
mhm.
Baptism is a defining moment as a symbol of who we are in Christ. What was that baptism experience like for you at camp?
Really, there was no other place where I would rather do it, if I'm being completely honest. Yes, it was a very special moment, but I kind of knew that that's where I wanted it to happen. It was just a matter of when.
Let's talk about leadership, Kobie. You are a person, I know this because I know you personally. You take leadership seriously. It's something that means something to you. It doesn't mean that you are perfect in any right, but you are a person who takes leadership at a personal level. You want to strive every day to be the best person, the best version of you. You want to honor God. You want to lead by example. I know that about you, right? Why is leadership so important to you, and what does it mean to you?
Leadership is so important because I feel that without a guiding light, a guiding figure to show you the ropes or to guide you from right from wrong, then at that point you're not going with complete tunnel vision. You can stray off to these different paths and really get off track to and what are you for what you're really trying to achieve. So a leader is just really someone who can, like I said, guide, someone who can nurture, someone who can be a helping hand for you whenever you may need it. They always want to see you do better whilst always learning for
Yeah.
themselves.
I love to think of a leader as someone who really sees the best in others before
Mhm.
the others actually see it in themselves, and inspires something in others even when they are not feeling inspired. But I think about some of the best like mentors and coaches I've had in my life, and some of the leaders that have really brought out the best in me have stood in my corner when others didn't. They've been from there for me when others weren't. They saw the best in me when I didn't see it in myself. But they also, like you said, it's always going to be encouraging, but there is that side of accountability as well. Like the best coaches are going to point you to be accountable for your decisions,
Mhm.
for your choices, because they matter. Your decisions matter, right? And a great leader, I think, is going to always hold us accountable or show us what accountability looks like to our decision making, while at the same time empowering us or inspiring us to be the best, right? So even when we mess up and even when we fail, Bible says a righteous man will fall 7 times in one day, but he will get back up again. And I think great leaders remind people of that you're going to stumble, you're going to fall, but ultimately you're capable of getting back up. And especially because God has made a way for you to get back up, right? Does that resonate at all with your story?
I've fallen quite a few times. It's a ride, and God has my hand going through it, and I'm ready for every bump, twist, and turn, fall, break, whatever it may be, in order for him to get where he wants me to be.
So I've got $1 million question for you, right? It's if Kobie can go back to your younger version of you, say a 9-year old, an 8-year old, a 7-year old Kobie, the Kobie that exists today, the 21-year old Kobie, uh, man, what would you want? What would that conversation sound like? I guess, right? If you go back and you're sitting down with that younger version of you,
Hmm.
how would that go down? What would you say?
I would say buy a house, but nah, besides that, um, I
Early, right?
really, yeah, probably to don't fear the things that you don't know. Don't be scared of the thing of the unknown. Just take the leap of faith.
So, what is the big dream in Kobe's life now?
It's to inspire with my experiences, with the knowledge that I've gained, with just things, whatever I can bring to the table to benefit anyone. I'm completely willing, and I'm ready to bring those offerings to the table for anyone who might need them. I want to be a helping hand. I want to be that light for someone else. I want to put my hand behind someone and push them forward because I didn't have it all the time, and I want to give that to someone else.
So, if you could fix the world or one thing in the world and you could permanently fix it for others coming up, behind you, what would you fix?
What would I fix? If I could fix one thing in the world, it would probably the feeling of not being wanted, the feeling of rejection. Because that's it's a common thing going around these states of people not feeling like they want to be included, but when people want them included, like they're not a part of anything. They have no one, and honestly, I've had that feeling, and it's one of the worst feelings to ever have that I've ever felt. The feeling that I wasn't wanted, that no one wanted me to be there. It's an indescribable feeling that I just wouldn't wish upon anyone. And if I could get rid of that, I certainly would.
Wow. I've heard it said that before we can really make a difference in the lives of other people, we have to first have our hearts broken for their pain. And also having our hearts broken for the things that break God's heart. And that's when I hear you talking about the loneliness factor, the rejection, right? The people feeling isolated and all out there on an island all by themselves. It's like that breaks God's heart, right? He did something so radical in sending Christ to this earth to shed his blood, give up his life to pay the sin debt that we owned so that we would no longer have to be separated from him, but we could also be restored in community with his family and others. And, God's idea of fixing the world is, doesn't sound like it's too far from what Kobe's desire is, that people would be known, that they would be loved, they would have community, they would have family, a place of belonging, right? Um, Kobie, you're gonna do some incredible things in your lifetime, and I'm so proud of you and excited for you. You said something really cool at summer camp last year, right? And I'm not going to let you off the hook on this. I've said it a few times, but you came up, you shared a testimony with the other campers, and you said, "I haven't told anybody this yet. I haven't told Mr. Jimmy or Miss Cindy. Nobody has even heard me say this yet, but one day I'm going to be running this camp." And
I did.
that lit me up. Um, whether it ever becomes true or not, it lit me up. I mean, I would love to see it come true, right? Because I think you would be an amazing director and just running the whole camp ministry, because I see your potential and your capacity to make a difference in other people's lives, and your leadership caliber. And it just warms my heart. And I wanted you to know that was a special moment for me last year, knowing that the next generation is rising. God's got his hand on the next generation. And as a next generation ambassador for Breakaway, you just you inspire us, the old heads in this thing. So we love you, buddy. We appreciate you.
I love y'all.
And the last thing I would ask you before we sign off here, what would you say to someone who is thinking about getting involved with Breakaway, maybe coming out and serving at camp or at a Kid Ventures program or becoming a mentor? Why is it worth it? Why does it matter for somebody to get involved with Breakaway?
Honestly, why wouldn't you? It's honestly, it was the best decision that my parents or my family ever made in the very beginning, because there's so much opportunity for growth, and not only yourself, but in your faith. Um, there's you can build so many deep connections with so many amazing people, and not only that, it's a lot of fun. You have so many different opportunities you can do, like our NASCAR trips, or maybe even a mission trip if you are really involved with the camp, yeah, with the camp or with the program. Like I said, there's a plethora of different reasons that I can make a very long list on why you should come to camp. And really, you won't know until you come experience it. So, but I promise you, it's a very, very great time.
It's been well said. I really have enjoyed this conversation, and I want to say again, just
You as
reiterate
well.
this, Kobie, that it's truly an honor that we get to launch a new podcast platform, but yet Kobie gets to be the first one that is going to tell his story on there. That's awesome to me. Really
It's an
special.
honor. It's an honor to me.
All right, buddy. Well, we're going to go ahead and sign off for now, and then we've got a banquet coming up. The Breakaway Outreach Night of Celebration Missions Banquet is at
Hmm.
First Baptist Church Cleveland on March 21st. People can go to our website to find out more about that. You're going to be there.
Hmm.
Uh, so if people want to meet you in person and shake your hand and just say hi to you, they can do that on March 21st and find out more. Um, so okay, thank you, Kobie.
Thank you.